This may come as a shock to you, but I haven't been shy about expressing my lack of sympathy for the campaign to make Azerite essences in the World of Warcraft account-wide. Around Twitter forums, hearing it on comments, video posts, and even within my guild, it was one complaint after another. There's no need to repeat them though, you're probably very familiar with them. So why was I being so cold? It's often pointed out to me that I don't understand because of the way that I play, because I don't invest time into alts, or because I don't play at a high enough level, or that I don't put my guild under pressure beyond, hey guys, let's just play video games together, and to please oh please, at least know where the raid instance is, okay? And even then, sometimes, anyway. Today though, just hours before recording this video, I came to a sort of realization, and I've had a change of heart. To be more precise, I was wrong. And now I find myself very supportive of features like essences to be made much more accessible to alts to a certain degree. I'm not going to get into the specifics of how, but at least making the unlock requirements for essences many times more relaxed on alts is probably the direction that I'd go in. This sort of feedback isn't what I want to talk about though. I do want to share how I shifted my opinion. My hopes are that somewhere in this pile of words that you're about to hear is a lesson. A critical, foundation-shaking lesson for Blizzard to learn. For those of you who've seen my videos that give opinions or viewpoints, you probably know that I do my best to take a balanced and logical look at game design decisions. When reading Blizzard's stance on account-wide essences, I understood the logic. After all, when it comes to gear progression, they've been very restrictive on account-wide anything. But when it comes to leveling, we have heirlooms. When it comes to catch-ups, we have account-bound gear. And in the case of essences, restrictions have been relaxed, just not to very many players' satisfaction. It was a recent interview with Ion Hazzikostas when he said something very specific, and it got me thinking. In the interview, Ion says the following: "But power and essences at the end of the day, when you're getting them by defeating a raid boss, clearing a mythic plus, buying them off of a vendor after earning the currency to obtain them, they're not that different to trinkets, items, or things like the legendary ring or cloak that we've had in the past. They're core player power." Most of what he says there is absolutely true, and it falls in line with WoW's 15 years of history. But he also says that essences are, quote, core player power. No, it's not. I'll try to not get lost in the silliness of semantics, but let me share how I understood this last part. Ion is describing Azerite essences as central to a player's ability. It's their strength, their throughput, the center of their gameplay, their power. That idea was very well understood when he mentioned trinkets, items, and so on. The problem is that Azerite essences are not pieces of gear or items. Azerite essences, like the Heart of Azeroth, like Azerite traits and Warfront and Island Adventures, are an expansion feature. Expansion features in WoW have a different sort of design philosophy compared to what game dev type people would call an evergreen feature. Pet battles are an evergreen feature. It's here to stay. It permeates WoW from the vanilla zones to Draenor to the other Draenor to the Broken Isles, and I say with confidence that they'll be in Shadowlands too. It's not critical to progression or story, but it's simply there to enjoy. And for some, it's a very important feature that gives life to the game. The Warlords of Draenor Garrison is, well, it's sort of an expansion feature. It was critical to many of the expansion's core features, most notably professions. It still exists today, but its wings are clipped. You can still go back to make productive use of most of its features, but it's not the gold-making factory that it used to be. The same goes for Legion's Order Hall. The same is going to go for the mission table in Battle for Azeroth. But artifact weapons are at a totally different level. They are definitely an expansion feature that lived and breathed, and in Legion, it died once it ended. Whether you enjoyed them or not, artifacts were a Legion exclusive experience. Today, Characters progressing through that expansion will have a very neutered feel of what Legion was. What will the BFA experience be like after Shadowlands is released? Will players leveling through the content have a Heart of Azeroth to play with? Will they have access to essences? And if so, will players care, knowing that by the time they hit a certain level, they're ready to move on to Shadowlands content well before essences are available, so who cares? There's a certain tragedy that World of Warcraft's more recent expansions are the kind of experience that you can basically miss out on. That the feeling future players will have will be worlds different than the one that you and I experienced at the present, day after day, throughout its entire release cycle. There is an advantage to this approach of expansion features. Unfortunately, I don't have a direct quote, but I can say with confidence that Blizzard feels a little bit more freedom when developing an expansion feature that they know isn't going to tie them down later. It means that they can be a bit more over the top, a bit more radical or experimental. But over the years, it's led to numerous conversations that question the growth of our champions and WoW, our characters. Where's the development and growth? Why are we left stripped down at the expansion's end? What do we come away with? And for those few new players who join the game and have the willingness to play through previous expansions, how does it feel for them when a significant part of that expansion isn't even close to the proper experience? Will they notice? The idea of essences is pretty cool, and Blizzard does deserve credit for developing it in only a few short months to be a crutch for the mostly beleaguered Azerite trait system. But it's reasonable to speculate that in less than a year's time, it's going away. I strongly suggest to Blizzard to take a long, hard look at what essences have meant for players, and use that to rewrite their mandate on what is an expansion feature and how accessible should said feature be. Thankfully, from what we've seen in Shadowlands so far, they're taking steps in the right direction. Here's a quick reminder. According to the initial announcements, leveling in Shadowlands for the first time will be a fixed experience that will take you across 4 or so leveling zones in order. Once you complete it, your alts will have a kind of New Game Plus mode, where they're free to break away and do their own thing, even start working towards endgame content while leveling. From the sounds of it, it's like playing as if you were already max level, just with a few restrictions, like not being able to enter raids, Mythic Plus dungeons, or other max level content. In fewer words, alts have just about everything available to them straight away in Shadowlands. But unfortunately, that's a while from now. And in the meantime, there's this unknown quantity of players, many of them who happen to be the more vocal type, who claim that they want to play more WoW, but have too many hoops to jump over. If Blizzard wants to retain more players for longer, but embrace the idea of expansion features, then these features should be designed to be more accessible to keep players interested. That's part of the freedom of having an expansion feature, allowing some of the rules to bend or even break. And even then, essences are not core player power. They're a temporary power, and time is running out. If there won't be an 8.3.5 patch, I suggest an 8.3.1 patch to lift most, if not all of the restrictions on essences on alts, and we'll just have one less thing to complain about. Until next time, stay breezy.